Hi everyone, I'm Sam Fritz, the Director of EdTech and AI at Solution Tree. Thank you for joining me on this new podcast series, From Foundation to Future, PLCs and AI in Education. This series has been recorded live on site at our events to capture the energy of the Institute, to provide fresh ideas, authentic voices, and inspiration for educators at every stage of their journey. So dive in with me as I talk to our keynoters, presenters, and attendees to learn from their successes and their challenges. Live in Sacramento is a three-part series. My first guest is Dr. Eric Twadell. He's the Superintendent of Schools at Adlai Stevenson High School in the suburbs of Chicago. He is a thought leader and a pioneer in the world of AI tools for educators. Stick around to learn from Eric. Tell me a little bit about your background. I know you're a practicing superintendent right now, right?
I am, yeah. I'm the superintendent at Adlai Stevenson School District in Lincolnshire, Illinois, which, as you know, the Solution Tree describes as the birthplace of the PLC movement. It's the place that Rick DeFore was the principal and superintendent for a long time. I've been superintendent for 19 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Before that, I was a curriculum director, and then before that, back in the early 90s, Rick hired me as a social studies teacher. So, yeah, I've been there close to 32 years now.
Is it your whole career there? Or?
My whole career has been at Stevenson.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I was perfectly happy being a social studies teacher, and then Rick asked me to consider being a curriculum director for social studies, and then I was perfectly happy doing that, and then Tim Kanold, who was the superintendent, retired not suddenly, but a little earlier than he thought, and the board asked me to consider being superintendent, and so here I am 19 years later.
Yeah.
So I love it. It's great.
And I think the reason that we're talking today is we're going to be talking a lot about AI. I know from my perception of your work is that you're sort of become this expert in educator use of AI. How did that come about? Where did you start?
Yeah, well, to be clear, I'm not sure I would say an expert. I am definitely an early adopter.
Yeah,
let's call it an early adopter.
Okay.
And I think it really did start for me and our team at Stevenson, I would say within days of ChatGPT being released in November of 22?
Yep.
And we all literally spent a team meeting jumping on and playing with ChatGPT, and by the end of an hour and a half realizing that this is not your grandfather's,
Right. This is not glorified Google search.
This is not a Google search.
Yeah.
We were within minutes, we were designing lesson plans, we were creating ACT-style reading passages. I mean, the applications were obvious for us in terms of how much time, we could potentially save as teachers in our day-to-day work. I'll never forget that meeting. It was one of the few times where we kind of played with technology and realized kind of an epiphany type moment, like this is going to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we jumped on within days of ChatGPT being released November 2022.
So I think we have a similar start point as far as the use case. Mm-hmm. So I know you talk a lot in your session. I just heard you talk yesterday about this. You advocate play and you advocate for get in and just figure it out.
Yeah.
And you say the same things that other people have said, which is, do some personal stuff. But
yeah.
I immediately went to how's this going to save me time at work, right?
Yeah.
Is that where you went first, or did you go with? You play with it on your own first?
We actually did. As I said, when it first came out, we looked at it at a team meeting at school. So, when you're sitting around with a group of 12 to 15 fellow administrators. Yeah, we go to the school side. Yeah. But immediately, we all started playing around on our own at home and began to realize, wait a minute, this is a tool for day-to-day life, whether it's, meal planning or doing financial analysis or, itineraries for trips. I mean, the applications and the potential are endless. So, yeah, I also immediately jumped into, on the personal side, using it, I would say almost daily for personal use as well. And yeah, it's just been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit, and
Yeah.
I want to define some terms for
Yeah.
our listeners.
Yep.
So I think AI terminology is so ChatGPT is a GPT, right? So we have these
Yeah.
weird names like Copilot is a Copilot.
Right.
So I want to define a few things. So the terms that I have, industry standard terms, are sort of copilots and agents, right? So copilots are user prompted, like LLMs, things like that. Agents are the automatic kind of things that run in the background.
LAMs.
LAMs.
So
yes.
LLMs would be like your chatbots, like ChatGPT or
Right.
Gemini
Yep.
or Claude, Magic School.
Yep.
LAMs, large action models,
Okay.
would be the agents.
Right.
And what I think is going to happen within the next, I would say, 6 months to 12 months is we're going to all start becoming experts not only in LLMs but LAMs as well. The large action models are doubling the rate at which they can act autonomously every 6 months.
Yeah.
So within the next year, large action models like Replit is one that I use pretty regularly, will be able to function autonomously for up to 8 hours.
Yeah.
And that's significant.
Right.
So yeah, large language models and then large action models,
Right.
agents,
Yeah.
in other words. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
you talking about that. So you talked a lot yesterday about two kind of villains, right? Two things that are attacking you at school.
Yeah.
And time was one,
Yep.
and support was the other thing that you said quite often
Yep.
in your session. So talk
Yeah.
to me about, and I loved your approach of, if you could pick 3 assistants,
Yeah.
if I could give you unlimited resources and you as a teacher could get 3 assistants.
Yeah.
I love that approach. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and that actually came from Bill and Paul. So I give them credit for kind of framing out that thought experiment where, and I think it was Paul who asked the question, for the average teacher or team, if your principal came to you and said, hey, we're going to hire you 3 humans, 3 support staff members to support your team, what would you want them to help with?
Yeah.
And I loved, again, I think it was Paul and Bill's answer, and they said, well, we'd want somebody to be a thought partner
Yep.
because it's really fun to just collaborate with people and get ideas and share thinking. We would love somebody to function more as an intern because there's certain pieces of my job that I just don't like doing, right? Like making worksheets or, writing assessments and things like that. And then another function would be somebody to help me grade and score student work. And I loved that, kind of analogy because I do think that for me when I was teaching, and now as an administrator, when I see teachers working as hard as they do, those are the 3 things that they're really working and spending a lot of time on. Collaborating with thought partners, doing the day-to-day kind of busy work of, of an intern, and then scoring and grading student work.
Yeah.
And so what I think we're realizing, at least in our experience in my district, is that these AI tools can save us significant amounts of time in all 3 of those areas.
Yeah.
Definitely as a thought partner, definitely as an intern, and I think starting this year more than ever as a partner in grading student work.
Yeah.
I used to spend hours, scoring and grading student essays or DBQs, and the fact that now AI can do that, it can do it for us. I'm not sure it should do all of it,
Right.
but if it can help us get to the 50-yard line and then we kind of carry the ball the rest of the way, I don't know why we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited about the potential for saving teachers time and providing support.
And I think having those 3 kind of buckets that you talked about, right? Thought partner, intern, and then grading.
Yeah.
For me, that connected so well because I was immediately clear about how I could use the assistant to help me in those 3 areas, right? I call mine my assistant, you call it your chat bot, right?
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever.
We call it.
Yeah.
So many synonymous terms for it, but
yeah.
I love that idea. Now, let's talk a little bit about how you teach people to use these effectively.
Yeah.
So I think there's this misconception, again, talking about terminology, people talk about training their assistant, but really they're fine tuning and they don't really know what they're doing, but they're using a lot of kind of sophisticated, the way that you're teaching simple use is really fine tuning and building it, using the tool to help it get better at doing what it does for you.
Yes.
And you were I thought that was really unique how you did that. You started with a simple prompt, and then you did everything in the same thread. You didn't create separate threads.
Yeah.
And just so people are I think people understand what I mean by threads, but
Yeah.
basically you're starting a conversation, you're doing all of the same thing within the same conversation.
Correct.
What led you to that, and why do you think that's a good place for people to start? I thought it was great watching you do it live.
Yeah, I think there's two reasons why that's true. The first is more just a functional answer to that, and that is that most people use either Gemini or ChatGPT, the free version.
Yeah.
And you know this, but some of the listeners might not, that if you use the free version, it doesn't have internal memory.
Right.
So I think if you're using the free version, it's important to stay within the same prompt as a thread, whatever you want to describe it as, so that it does remember kind of what you've been discussing, if you will, over the course of that session. So that's why I stuck with that same thread, this building off of the same prompt. With that being said, if folks are willing to, or their districts are willing to pay for a version of ChatGPT or Gemini or Magic School, it will remember all of your previous sessions. You can prompt it to remember, or generally speaking, it does have some memory of kind of previous prompts.
Right.
So that's primarily why I did it that way, because otherwise it won't necessarily remember kind of what you'd asked it previously.
Yeah.
But so that's number one. Number two, I also think it's just fun to see how you can start think of it like an inverted triangle, right?
Yeah.
Like start at a really broad kind of base. And I think we ask people just to unpack an essential standard, but then start taking that and drilling it all the way down into a lesson plan and an assessment, and then actually some examples of student work, and then let's score that student work. Like we can get really narrowly focused, pretty quickly within a matter of minutes to see how this really can be so helpful. Yeah. So that's kind of why I did it that way.
Well, I think it's brilliant in that way, because I think there are two. I've not seen anyone do it that way, but usually there's the front load your prompt. Like the skill for prompt engineering is we want to give it as much context as we can at the beginning, but my experience is not everybody that's new to AI understands like what the context is needed.
Yeah.
So you're doing that subtly, and you're doing that just by trying different things, which I think is a great idea. So you're building context so that assistant knows what you need.
Correct. And I think that, for folks who want to go deep into this, there are a lot of resources out there about prompt engineering, and even ChatGPT has published some resources on how to engineer prompts, to get exactly what you need. And I think that's great. My experience though is, I'm one of those people who, when something's wrong with the TV at home, right? Like I don't go to the directions and look for the FAQs, like I just start fiddling with it and trying to figure out like what's happening. So to me, there's an element of like, let's just get in there and pick it apart and try to figure out what works and what doesn't, and how can I prompt it more effectively to get me what I'm looking for. And I think by doing that, kind of having that playful, as you described it, moment, with the chat bot, actually, I happen to think works better.
Yeah.
Now I know that there are others, my wife included, who would say, no, like give me the directions. I want to know how to write a prompt perfectly. And I'm like, okay, but my feeling is you're going to waste a lot of time trying to figure out how to do it perfectly. When you can just wing it, experience it, make some mistakes, learn from that, and kind of refine it that way. So I don't know. Tomato, apples and oranges. I don't know that there's one right way to do it.
I agree.
My feeling is just get in there, play with it, and see what it can do.
Yeah. I think the other thing you hit on, which was really nice to see, is if you haven't been following the exponential growth of AI, right? You thought of ChatGPT as just a simple, it's text-based. But it has become multimodal without really any kind of pomp and circumstance, right? Just it looks the same, but it can now do video, can do audio, can do all kinds of things. So I like that you just kind of showed folks that, you can upload a PDF. And even several months ago, it wouldn't read the PDF, right?
Correct.
So it's gotten to the point now where it will read it, understand it, ask. You showed a great one. Do you mind talking a little bit about that example where it was the grading example, but you talked about, I uploaded a PDF that had an embedded rubric. And it read the rubric. But talk to me about that.
So this is the functionality that I'm super excited about. And to be clear, again, scoring and grading student work takes hours and hours and hours of teachers' time. And one of the things that we've learned is that, that ChatGPT, for example, Gemini will do the same, Magic School will do the same, and there are other new applications that are going to be coming to the market in the next couple months that I know of that are going to be even more enhanced. But ChatGPT, Gemini can grade student work. And so the example I showed yesterday was I took a APUS, or a world history DBQ, a document-based question. And a document-based question, of course, is a essay question that students have to answer based on, in this case, I think there was 10 different documents, some maps, some reading passages, some charts and graphs, and kids had to take all of those documents and use them in order to answer the essay question. And then on page 10 or 11 of this document was a rubric that was going to be used to score, the student's response. And then the last 3 pages of this PDF, I think there's about 13, 14 pages, was the actual student work. And I intentionally, as you mentioned earlier, didn't give it a whole lot of direction because I don't want to overcomplicate prompt engineering for people. I just uploaded the PDF and said, hey, please score this, DBQ for me, using the rubric in the packet. And, you saw it within a matter of 10, 15 seconds, it started scoring the student's essay based on the rubric that was in the PDF, and came up with, a pretty darn accurate grade for that student, and identified specific feedback that a teacher could give the student, in writing. So, that was a very powerful experience about a year ago that we started doing that. And then I think the other example I showed was a really complex AP Physics math problem.
I love that. What is this?
Personally, I don't even understand it. I was not an AP Physics C teacher, and this is the most difficult physics class we offer. It's calculus based. And I uploaded the problem and the solution without even providing any context whatsoever, just as an image, not even as any written text, just as a math problem. And Chat was able to identify what kind of problem it was and then actually score the students' work and provide feedback. And it's just getting smarter and smarter. And so those are the areas where we're realizing, this is transformative.
So one of my feelings about AI is that it gives you more time to be the human in the classroom.
Absolutely.
And you talked about that in 2 ways. You talked about the idea that humans that know how to use AI are going to be very valuable. Like, we need to know how to do this. So there's a hesitancy still in a lot of districts to say, well, I don't know how to start, so we aren't going to start. Right? Why did you decide we're going to do this? So that's one. Let's start with that. So we're the humans, but this is going to help us do our jobs better, to give us more time to be humans in the classroom. So why, as a district leader, were you like, let's go, let's figure it out?
Well, I think for a couple reasons. Probably the most important of which is two things. One, it was very clear that this was here to stay. This was not going to be a one-hit wonder kind of technology. I mean, within days of ChatGPT being released, Google started, signaling that they're going to release their own, LLM. I mean, the race was on. I don't think anybody expected OpenAI, ChatGPT to be released when it did. These models have been under development for a decade. And so once we saw and realized that, this is it, this is not going away, this is going to be here, and it's going to transform everything in our economy and our educational system, we realized that fairly quickly, number one. But number two, as a superintendent, my feeling has always been, I want to be on the front end of change, not on the back end of change, whether that's with our grading and reporting work that we've done, whether it's with SEL, whether it, whatever the initiative is, when we see something that's going to be affecting us, I want to be on the front end of that. I want to be in a position to be able to lead and direct how it's going to impact and influence us. I don't want to be reactionary.
Yeah.
So that's why we jumped on it right away, because I wanted to make sure that we were the ones who were directing how it was going to be impacting us in our district. So that's why we jumped on so soon.
Yeah, great. Okay, and then most of the people experts that I read about, that I hear about, say the same thing you did, which is being the human in the interaction is important.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about, you mentioned yesterday, you were clear about, and you said it today too, it gets you halfway there.
Yeah.
It gets you, even though we're using these 3 assistants in 3 different ways, or 3 helpers, even to grade, it's not doing all the work, even though it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So talk to me about why it's important to keep the human in the scenario and not rely on it as the person, as the thing doing the work for you.
Yeah. Well, I think, yesterday I kind of joked. I mean, first and foremost, I'm on Team Human, like I'm on Team Human. I don't think that, we're going to be better off if, AI, programmed robots take over. So I think that's number one. Number two, I don't think that, in education at least, I don't think that AI is going to replace all of us and our jobs.
Right.
But I do think that educators who use AI are far more likely to be hired and promoted and celebrated than those who don't. So I do think it's something that we need to incorporate and work into our toolbox. So that's number two. And number three, I think that the human element is important because just like no human, no chatbot is perfect. Right? They make mistakes.
Yeah.
Now, they make a lot fewer mistakes today than they did 2 years ago.
That's right.
Like everybody 2 to 3 years ago was talking about hallucinations was a term. They're getting smarter and smarter. So they're making fewer mistakes today than they were 3 years ago. But they still make mistakes. So there is an element of kind of fact checking and double checking and making sure that, the output is what you want, right? It may not be kind of the perspective that you want to bring to an assessment or a lesson plan or whatever it is that you're asking it to do. So I do think that human element is super important. So that, with that said, I still believe that, we should be relying on these tools. There are some who would listen to this conversation and say, well, yeah, exactly, they make mistakes, that's why I don't want to use it. Well, but here's the thing. Humans make mistakes too, right? So we're not infallible, right? And in fact, in some cases, the AI agents are making fewer mistakes than a human might. So again, why not just use it to get us 50, 60% of the way there? And then I can take it the rest of the way, So that's kind of how I feel about it,
Okay, talk to me a little bit about what blew your mind. So I think back to the first time I prompted. And my experience was sort of, everybody at the time was like, do personal stuff. And so I put something in. I was like, this is, I don't know. And then I had a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, this blew my mind. It sounds like you had that pretty early. But what recently has blown you away with what's coming or what you've experimented with now?
So I would say let me answer that in 2 ways. The first thing that blew my mind 3 years ago, and I'll never forget it in that first meeting, and let me back up even further. One of the things that we started doing way back in 1997 is the ACT became the state test for Illinois.
Right.
And the reading passages on the state test, on the ACT, are long and they're difficult. There's a lot of in-depth reading that kids had to do. And so we realized in the 90s that we need to prepare kids for these assessments. And so Rick asked us, and as a curriculum director, I was tasked to kind of implement, to create reading passages for every unit that we taught in the social studies curriculum. But, as a teacher of world history, right, like I'm teaching a unit on Rome, I need to go and, find a ACT reading passage on Rome. They're not out there.
Right.
So then we had to create them. And this would take hours and hours of work. I mean, we're talking, up to 500-600 hours were spent in the summer of 1980 on curriculum hours for this project. It was bananas. So fast forward 25 years, and ChatGPT in that very first meeting, created an ACT-style reading passages with 10 DOK questions,
In
DOK
30
1 to 4
seconds.
in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that was mind-blowing. That's
Yeah.
when we realized, wait a minute, this is, again, not your father's Internet Explorer, right? Like, this is way different.
Yeah.
Fast forward 3 years, what I think is going to happen now is, we're playing with LLMs. I think what's going to happen now is we're all going to start playing with LAMs, large action models.
Yes.
So what has blown my mind was the other day, I was playing around with Replit, which is an AI agent creation tool. And again, you can get a free account. I wanted to, get a sense of like, well, what would this do for me individually, but also what would it do for me in my district? And I'll give you just a quick example of, again, one of the things that blew my mind. And again, I'm not an AI expert. I just consider myself an early adopter. I have fun. I like to play with it.
Yeah.
And so we have a district website that, www.d125.org has tons of information on it. It's great. A lot of people do a lot of work, to maintain it, keep it updated, lots of information, et cetera. But what we don't have is an AI chatbot that interfaces with that website.
Yep.
And a lot of organizations do, a lot of schools do, a lot of companies do. I think Solution Tree might even have an AI agent chatbot now. Mm-hmm. And so at about 7:50 in the morning on a random Tuesday, about 2 months ago, I had learned all about these large action models and this tool called Replit, which is a way to create these.
Yep.
And I heard this data about how these LAMs are going to be able to run autonomously for up to 8 hours within the next 6 months. And so I'm thinking, well, let me play around with this. And so I logged into Replit and gave it one prompt. Please create an AI chatbot for my school district's website, www.d125.org. Enter. Now, if I had made that request of a computer programmer 6 months ago, that probably would have taken 2 to 3 months and $50,000 to $60,000 for them to program an AI chatbot for our website.
Right.
And I know this because we actually asked somebody to do it.
Right.
I entered that at 7:50. By 8:15, so less than a half an hour later, Replit had produced an AI chatbot for our website in 25 minutes or so that I was able to integrate into our website.
That's amazing.
It was
mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. Yeah. I have no computer programming skill whatsoever.
Right.
I had it up on my screen and I was watching it produce code.
Yeah.
And it would run into error messages and it would say, oh, I've run into a problem, let me go and fix it. And ran different kinds of code. It was extracting images from our website. It was absolutely bananas. For somebody who, again, not an AI expert, but an early adopter, somebody who just has fun with it,
right.
To see what it could do with very little prompting whatsoever literally blew my mind.
Yeah.
And that's where I just think that, we're all having fun with our LLMs. Within a matter of a year or so, we're all going to start having fun with LAMs, large action models, and we're going to all have an AI agent that we're going to be able to program to automate tasks for us, whatever those might be. So creating a chatbot for your website or anticipating our needs, looking ahead within a curriculum and developing autonomously assessments that we're going to need. Like the need for prompting will become less as the agents become smarter.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm blown away by what's going to be coming in the next kind of year or so, and I'm super excited for it.
Eric, this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate your time. It's been fun talking with you.
Yeah, you too.
Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great talking to you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
you. Thanks, Sam.
Since 1998, Solution Tree has worked to transform education worldwide by empowering educators to raise student achievement. In pursuit of that mission, the PLC at Work Institutes are designed to bring educators together for 2.5 days of shared learning and collaboration. With the brand new 4th keynote, updated content, and dynamic breakout sessions, you'll gain advanced tools to refine your approach and make a bigger impact. To learn more about the full slate of PLC at Work Institutes and to register, navigate to www.solutiontree.com/events podcast.
I really appreciate you tuning in for this new series from Foundation to Future, PLCs and AI in Education. Make sure to navigate to solutiontree.com/podcast to listen to our other episodes. We've got live at Tulsa. We've got 2 more live at Sacramento episodes. Subscribe on your favorite app today, and thanks for joining us.